Oftentimes, asking for a letter of reference or a recommendation letter can feel a little bit scary because you're approaching somebody and asking them to write something nice about you. It's kind of difficult to know who to ask. What do you say? What should they say about you? The best recommendation letters are clear, honest, they're direct, there's no mistake. When you're asking people for a letter of recommendation, you want to allow time for them to think about you, think about what you have to offer, and then write a thoughtful letter. Sometimes less is more. So if it's short, crisp, and to the point, that can be equally as beneficial for you as a candidate, whether you're a job seeker or an admissions candidate for school. The best recommendations provide details about you. This is not a general template that it's just your name replaced, but gives an idea about your positive traits, your personality, and some of your achievements. So this could be academic achievements, or it could do with work. So your work experience and your skills. Most people want to see, what do you bring to the table? What do you offer? So whether that's commitment or high level of motivation, or you're a reliable person, or you communicate well, those are things that can be talked about in a recommendation letter. Before you ask anybody to write a recommendation letter for you, you have to do some sort of research. If you're applying for a school, what is the admissions committee looking for? Your recommendation letter has the power to totally change someone's mind. So it could be that extra weight that you need to get admissions into a program. Finding out, taking time, figuring out, what does this admissions committee look for from their students? Are they interested in leadership roles? Are they interested in examples of research that you've done? And same thing with a boss. If you're applying for a specific job, you can take time and see, what do they look for in their employees? What is their company culture? What kinds of responsibilities would you be participating in? And that is going to help you kind of steer your ship in figuring out what kind of recommendation letter you need. In your mind, think about, if you were the boss, if you were the admissions committee, what would you be looking for? And then what are some of the details or the stories that you can provide to show those things? Consider, everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different background, different experiences. What have you accomplished, and how does that say something about who you are? Whether you're the team captain of your football or your soccer team, whether you've won some sort of award for a project you're really proud of, maybe you completed a degree program while you were working, so you can show that you're able to balance responsibilities while staying focused on your own goals. Those are things that you might want to point out to the person who's writing your recommendation. Other things that you can mention: so goals that you have, skills that you've acquired, any sort of contributions you've made to your school, to your community, maybe to a team, discussions that you've facilitated or led, interpersonal skills, any positions of leadership, hobbies, extracurricular activities that are important to you in which you've excelled, and then of course your potential. So where are you hoping to go? What are you hoping to do? A good letter, again, can be the deciding factor in university admissions. It can also be the reason why you get a job. So taking time and thinking carefully about who should write your recommendation. You could ask somebody who's maybe well known and has a high post, but they don't know you as well as someone who maybe isn't as well known, but that person could write a stronger letter for you. So keep that in mind. It's not necessarily about who you ask, but what are they going to say? What are they going to write? Most of the time, people immediately think about teachers or professors or bosses, but there are other people that you can consider who might be able to write a positive letter for you. So this could be a club leader, workshop organizers. So maybe you've attended a workshop or a seminar and you were participating and engaged. Again, someone who knows you and can write meaningful details about you. This is not family or a close relative. Most people who are reading your recommendation, they want to get a neutral or an unbiased look about who you are and what you provide. So if you ask a cousin or an uncle or your father or your mother to write a recommendation letter for you, obviously your mother and your father, they think you're the best person in the world. So that's not going to be unbiased. how can you make it easier for a writer to do this? It's not just, hey, can you write a recommendation letter for me? There are some things that you want to include and give so that way you can do your part to make sure this letter is as strong as possible. So number one is you want to give all of the details that you have about where's this letter going. A work opportunity, you can give details about the position, the company. If it's for a school, you can provide details about the degree program, the school, maybe what they look for in students. Keep in mind, people are busy, professionals are busy, and you're asking a favor of someone else. So giving someone 1 or 2 days before a recommendation letter is due is not considerate. So if your application for school is due January 15th, all of your materials need to be received by the 1st. You want to give your recommendation writer time to think about that, right? So you're planning backwards. Things that you can provide to the person who's writing your letter, so your resume or CV. You can also provide a transcript to show what kinds of classes you've taken, your grades. You can give the person, so if you're applying for a school program, you can give them your personal statement or your statement of purpose, so that way they can align what they're writing about you to match what you've already told the admissions committee. Providing a list of things that you're proud of can also give the writer some talking points as they're putting together a recommendation for you. If this person's very busy, maybe a professor has many students, to give some sort of reminder or refresher about the course that you took with that person or projects that you completed in that class or even workshops that you've done, that can be helpful. You're asking for a favor, make that person's job as easy as possible so they can write a strong letter for you. If someone comes to you and is asking for a recommendation letter, same thing. You have to make a schedule for yourself, manage your time, and plan ahead. This person is depending on you. This is a pretty standard template that you can use to write a recommendation letter. So the introduction is somewhat interesting, and you're describing the relationship between you and the person you're supporting. Then you can share some story about your interaction with that person and add details about why this person is exceptional. It's a pretty standard formula. You want to make sure that you are introducing yourself when you're writing in terms of why does it matter that you are writing the letter, whether you are the person's professor or whether you manage this person at work. You want to make that distinction, that relationship clear. Obviously, you are evaluating that person's ability and their performance. So you can use comparisons, and descriptions are also helpful. So when has that person shown leadership capabilities? When has that person shown responsibility? If you're asking for a recommendation letter, you can also provide these to the writer to make their job easier. I'm pleased to provide a reference for, can offer only the highest recommendation. I've had the opportunity to, I have known Sam for 3 years. Raul has been a pleasure to supervise, right? So those are phrases that you can use to begin the letter. Now in the middle, Ram displays a broad range of skills, behaves professionally, handles responsibility, displays sensitivity and concern for others. Martha is intelligent and ambitious, personable and easy to work with. Kamala was an asset to our organization, to our club, to our school. So those are all phrases that can be used. And then finally, phrases to close. I request your consideration of, I highly recommend, I'm confident that Sony will continue to, rarely do I recommend someone, if I can assist, if you like more information. Short, sweet, simple, to the point. So dear, and then obviously this is the information that you would be providing. Is it the admissions committee? Is it an employer? And then blank comes to mind when I think about blank. So here you're thinking of a positive description and then including your name. I've had the pleasure of knowing blank for X amount of time, during which, and you're sharing some sort of story or some sort of relationship. I'm impressed with your name's ability to, and here again, you're providing some sort of details to analyze information, to work well in teams, whatever. Your name, you could think whatever positive points you have would be an asset to any position or organization needing, and then you fill in that stuff that really matters. letters. Always in a recommendation letter, it's helpful to include some sort of contact in case there are follow-up questions or the admissions committee or that employer wants to get in touch. So I can be reached at, and it could be an email, it could be a phone. So this is a pretty basic template that can be modified, can be used in a variety of situations. But again, the point is the same, that it has to be detailed and clear about who you are, right? If someone writes recommendation letters and just changes the name, that might not be what you need to get what you want. I've worked with many students who they've asked for a recommendation letter and they didn't give the recommender enough time and deadline passed, and then they're scrambling and they're having to go between the person who's supposed to write the letter and the admissions committee asking for more time. That's not a good look. Whenever you're applying for anything, whether it's a school or a job, you want to show that you're capable, you're prepared, you're thoughtful. When you give someone who's writing your letter more time, you can send a follow-up email or call them, 1 week out to remind them, hey, application deadline is next week. Do you need any more information from me? Can I help in any way? This again shows consideration and thoughtfulness from your side. That being said, once you have the recommendation, it's always a nice gesture to send a thank you. So whether it's a handwritten note, whether it's an email or a phone call, being gracious and thanking the person who's taken time to write you that letter, that's an important step. You can keep a portfolio of the recommendation letters you've received. If you finished a program, if you finished a workshop, if you're done with school, even if you don't need a recommendation letter at that time, to ask somebody can be helpful. If you've done volunteer work in your community, if you've helped an organization or a club and you've done a project that you're really proud of and you feel good about, that's also a great time to ask for a recommendation. So you don't necessarily have to wait until you need one. Collect them so that way, if you are in a position that a recommendation letter is required, you already have a few and maybe you don't need to go and ask and you don't have that time crunch. My name's Michelle. Happy to be of service and help you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for participating and see you guys soon. Bye. Bye.